Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to some more StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. Today I got another game for you and this time around it's going to be a Protoss versus Zerg. And as you may know, I've been playing a little bit of random on a second account. We're currently right around rank 20 or so on that account, so I've been playing quite a little bit on it and we're finally starting to face some really good players up on the ladder. So this time around, like I mentioned, I'm gonna go up against a Zerg player, and there's one benefit, as you may have already guessed, from me playing a ton of Zerg. I basically know exactly what is extremely annoying to be dealing with as a Zerg player when you go up against Protoss. And I've been using that exact strategy in both, you know, Terran versus Zerg, as well as Protoss versus Zerg, as well as Zerg versus Zerg, I suppose, but that one doesn't really count. But Protoss versus Zerg is one of those matchups where you have a couple of different options to go for as the Protoss player. Usually the Protoss player is the one that's deciding what is happening in the early game, unless the Zerg player is going for some sort of like Ravager cheese or like, you know, proxy hatchery or something like that. But most of the time, it's really the Protoss player that is deciding what the game is gonna look like. Now, versus Terran, in Zerg versus Terran, or Terran versus Zerg rather, when I played Terran, I've been going for a lot of like mech-based styles and like Blue Flame Hellion-based styles and whatnot, just to try and be as annoying as I possibly can be, you know, to the Zerg player. And the one thing that I struggle with the most personally is Adept-based openers into 2-base all-ins. And yes, I am gonna do a 2-base all-in in this game as well. 2-base all-ins, I honestly feel like there's very little reason not to do them. First off, there's a couple reasons why they're great. First off, pro gamers do them all the time, right? 2-base Protoss all-ins are extremely common, you see them all the time, so that automatically means that there's a legit strategy. But on top of that, there's countless different options. There are so many different options available for Protoss cheese that it's hard to really not go for it. Or not cheese, sorry, for 2-base all-ins. I could be going for Stargate openers with Oracles, I could be going for Phoenix openers, Void Ray openers, Immortal openers, massive amounts of Stargates, Blink Stalker, Charge Slot, Adepts with the upgrade, and just countless different all-ins or like build orders that you can go for when you play Protoss versus Zerg off of 2 bases. And maps like this are absolutely amazing for it. And that is one of the main reasons why I end up going for a lot of, you know, 2-base all-ins when playing Protoss versus Zerg. But most importantly, so far, I have found it to be very difficult to play a maxed out Protoss army. And I know this is gonna maybe upset some of you Zerg players out there, but micro as Zerg with a maxed out army is not very difficult, okay? You basically just A-move for the most part, and after you know, decided what position you want to go into, usually it will work out just fine. But it takes a whole lot of practice in order to figure out exactly how to micro the Protoss army. At least that's what I found so far. There's so many different spellcasters. Obviously, the Mothership Core needs babysitting. You have the Sentries that need babysitting. Oftentimes you need to like micro back Immortals or micro them towards their army. Then you also have the Storm, and there's so many spellcasters, so many positions, so many variables to be dealing with that I tend to hold back and go for 2-base all-ins. And this is my favorite so far. So I go for a relatively quick expansion. I have not copied this build order, by the way, from anyone. I'm just sort of, you know, trying to figure it out by winging it. But I go for an Immortal Adept all-in versus Zerg. And the idea behind that is obviously that you are being extremely annoying with a lot of Protoss units to your opponent. But most importantly, you usually hit them when they're still not producing a massive amount of army. And if you manage to deny the Overlord Scouts, and obviously I also kind of know where the Overlords are going to be located on most maps, especially if you don't open up Stalker, I just basically mean to do a whole lot of damage with it. So in this specific game, I'm opening up with double Adept and a Zealot, trying to be as annoying as I possibly can be with that, and I'm gonna follow it up with the Immortal play. Now, I've noticed that my opponent has been producing a lot of Zerglings already, and I'm very happy with that. If he's producing Zerglings, that automatically means that he's not producing workers. So right now, income-wise, he's only 3 workers ahead, even though I've been focusing quite a lot on some early game, you know, aggression right here, and, you know, I've not been spending all my chrono boost on my workers. So I'm just trying to be as annoying as I possibly can be. Do end up sniping a queen right here as well, which is huge, and then I'm gonna use another queen as well. However, you will also very shortly see the lack of practice. Come on, show the lack of practice, Lowko. Because I don't actually have enough energy anymore after using that time warp to teleport my army home. So right here, I'm frantically trying to click the mass recall button to get my army back home, and then I realize, snap, I actually don't have any energy anymore after that time warp. So a bit of a misplay, but I do end up killing two of the queens, which is huge. Like, I know exactly as a Zerg player how extremely annoying it is to lose both of the queens early on, because you basically have no more economy at all. So right now, I'm like, okay, I scouted that he doesn't have a third base. I scouted that I killed both of his queens, right? I obviously scouted that. And then I also know that he's gonna be floating minerals. So either he's gonna decide to go straight into double queen again, or what is more likely actually, he's gonna spend his resources on something like a third base and then maybe a lair. That seems to be the most common option, because no matter what, he's gonna be floating resources since he's not getting the larva. So the all-in that I'm going for is going to be more and more powerful. Now I also make a couple of misplays right here, as you can see. Do hit a minor supply block as well, which is actually cutting into the production time quite a lot. So by no means, even though we're facing people up to the Master League ladder, right? By no means am I playing this perfect yet, but the ideas are basically to be a complete nuisance to the Terran or Zerg player or Protoss player whenever I play Protoss. And just to, you know, basically harass them to death, to try and figure out what is the most annoying to them and just execute that over and over and over again. And while there's definitely still a lot of work to be done, I found this one in particular to be very, very annoying. Now, there's also a couple of variations that I've been trying to do. For example, the Twilight Council with the upgrades on the Adepts. It slows down the push slightly, which means that Zerg is gonna have a couple more roaches out. However, with the attack upgrade on the roaches, or on the Adepts, it makes them 45%, you know, stronger, basically, because the attack speed goes up significantly. However, in this specific case, I do not go for that. I just go for a straight up Immortal one, follow it up with a War Prism out of the Twilight Council, and then also follow it up with a observer as well to clean up any kind of, you know, creep that is there. Now you can also actually build like a gateway on the other side of the map, get like a fast warping in pylon, and actually warp in from that angle. I haven't really been doing that all too much because I feel like the Zerg can easily counter that. But in this specific scenario, as you can see, I'm gonna move out at 6 or so minutes. Now, if executed perfectly, I think I could shave at least a half minute off of this thing. Like, I'm pretty sure this is me failing off the warp in, by the way, or the positioning right there. But I think I could easily shave off a half minute from this timing. And I should also probably start preparing a pylon on the other side of the map a little bit faster, just to deal with this aggression and just, you know, be in his face faster. Because every second we lose here, we basically give him time to warp in, or to, you know, to mutate in more and more ravages and roaches and whatnot. So I am gonna follow this up with an observer as well. Gonna just start warping in a ton of stuff, and I do opt to go for a couple of stalkers here. The stalkers are gonna be in case he goes for roaches. I already know he has a roach worn up, so here we go. I'm gonna force with the ramp immediately, because I know if he doesn't have reinforcement, that's gonna be great. Gonna try and shield my Immortals to the best of my abilities to do as much damage as I possibly can do those roaches, making sure that this army can never really connect to mine. And even though the army supply was relatively even there, dealing the early game economy lost to him because we killed the two queens just helps out so much. And then having his army stuck behind the force field immediately means that we will have a significant amount of units in his third base just to deal with all of the aggression. Gonna put a time warp up on the ramp as well, once again just to be annoying, to slow down any kind of units that are trying to progress from the ramp down to the third, and we do end up picking up the victory. So a couple of things I do need to work on. First off, while the aggression is going on with the Mothership Core and then the 2 Adepts and potentially a Zealot, I need to be macroing a little bit better behind that. I did hit a couple of supply blocks there, and I also wasn't producing probes all the time. Then I need to work on the timing on those gases. In this specific game, I took them too early, simply because I couldn't really make use of them. I mean, I noticed I was floating minerals, so I sort of put down 2 simulators for no apparent reason. Not a good timing on those. Probably should start chrono boosting robotics facility as well, or at least figure out whether or not it's better to chrono boost out probes just constantly and then do, you know, a slightly later timing attack, or chrono boost out the Immortals and hit them in the face faster with a smaller economy, and whether or not I should be going for the Twilight Council and see if I can get the Adepts upgrades going, or potentially even go for Blink Stalkers. So those are the kind of things that I'm currently working on. I've been doing something very similar versus Terran as well, but then obviously more of an Adept focus because it absolutely wrecks bio, and honestly it's working out extremely well as well. You just need to defend obviously versus like Widowmine drops, and most of the time you're gonna need this dude before you really oh, I actually got 2 right now, but you normally want to go for like a couple of observers to defend against Widowmine drops and whatnot. But anyways, we're currently beating master level players up on the ladder with these kind of strategies. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button down below. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe. And I want to thank you all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, and I'll see you in the next one.